I'm ready to go live. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? We are here. We got a special uh, show for you today. This is a real life with Duke White exclusive interview with Madison Downs. Once again, running for Congress. The reason why we're meeting so much with Madison is honestly just to figure out to hear his heart. Uh, he has a different kind of game plan on making change in the community, and so we wanted to hear his heart, talk to him, because guys, we need genuine leadership. We don't need politics as usual. We need somebody that really cares for the people in a real way. And the only way that's going to happen is if we're brave enough to make that happen, brave enough to do something different. So as you guys are tuning in, make sure if you want to ask any questions, I really just wanted to provide a platform where you guys could ask questions and ask him what his beliefs are, where what the plan is, and hear from him versus you know how politics can be. You know, people, you can watch a commercial and people say you said stuff you didn't say, and you think ways you don't think. And so what we wanted to do is hear from the horse's mouth. As you guys know, I don't cut any noise, so I ask real questions that maybe there sometimes are difficult to answer. But the thing about Madison is, one, he doesn't mind saying he doesn't know if he doesn't know something. Two, he doesn't mind saying I'll get back to you. But the funniest part about Madison is that he doesn't mind answering the tough questions. He also doesn't mind telling you to mind your business. It's a true statement. True statement. It's a very true statement. I'm trying to make sure that. Do you see it on my page yet?
I do.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is get it so that we can get it.
And so this is what this is about. This is a meet and greet with Madison Downs, and I'm going to let him explain some things that they got going on, that him and his manager have going on. His, what is it? Is it road manager, tour manager? I'm used to doing music, so what is it? What is it? Campaign manager? And Nikia and just the really what's so amazing is the approach. I have to say I believe 100% that significant change is needed right now because of the polarization, and the extremes are getting worse out there. When you look at politics, the extremes are getting worse, and if we don't bring some solidarity and how far is this thing going to go? We already live in a country where people have become confused about simple concepts like the existence of men and women, and that's already got people confused. And I'm like, how did we decline that far? We because and it's so strange because this really wasn't the first blow. The first blow was once we got confused about what should be allowed on television. And I know we're a free country, so I think there's been this massive confusion between being liberal and liberated. We've merged those conversations, but then we before that we had to we redefined what family was, and so these are some of the things that we're going to discuss with Madison, and to find out what his heart is, what his strategy is to reach out and connect with people, and how do we get people out of their comfort zones? How do we get more people more informed that that this is necessary, this is important. But first, before we even get there, I want to play this for you guys. I want you to check this out. We had an opportunity with More Legacy Group. I'm sorry. I'm going to play a couple of announcements, and then we're going to jump right into it with Madison Downs.
party you may have. So,
Mommy!
Okay, did we get you?
This is the epic moment. Our Army personnel, Miss Ashley Jensen, just got home from her deployment from Kuwait and Iraq, and this is the first time setting eyes on her home. First time, literally. And she just had a chance to be with her daughter as well too. Wait, first I want to do is give you the tour of the garage, but also the backyard. Come on, man. I'm so proud of you.
So good in here.
Oh, I like those.
The pictures didn't do it no justice.
Oh, that's very nice.
Y'all really overdid yourselves right now. This is my house? I look good in here. Oh, oh, y'all found a good place to put the benches too? Because I didn't really look at that. Oh, Mason. It's so good in here.
This is what it's all about.
What is all about, y'all?
Helping people, special our soldiers, our military
at
that
my
come to a place they
room.
can call their own, which is home.
Regular bed. Oh, it looks so nice.
As a first-time voter, I wanted to give you guys some awesome tips about voting and why I think it's important for you guys to get out there and vote as young people. First, your voice does matter. Always remember that. Second, make sure you do your research first and always know that you do have the right to make your own decision. So don't go based on things about your parents' vote, but if they have opinions, respect them. But make sure that you are stepping forward and going to the rallies and the meetings, and even make sure you're watching for the news, because sometimes the news can be wrong. So again, that goes back to the research thing. But again, always make sure that you are going to their websites, and reading what they're about. But there always are civil ways to do things, especially what's going on in America with the riots and young people thinking that's the only way they can get their voice heard. But there is always more civil ways to do things. So go out there, vote, and do what you have to do.
Give me your time, your full,
All right. So we're here with Madison Downs, the Madison Downs. I need you to come back on to the.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, Madison, we definitely appreciate you for taking the time just to, we've been scammed so many times. And so we just appreciate you being willing to be open to have a candid conversation about who you are, what you stand for. Again, we've been scammed over and over again. We've been scammed by tall people, skinny people, short people, fat people, black people, white people. Like people that we thought that were going to be genuine and weren't genuine. And so you taking the time to let me drill. Let me ask some questions. Your drill session, yeah, it's like you get bombarded, but you always knock them out the park, man. I mean, because I think that people are genuinely tired of playing the political game. Me personally, my first experience was I invited you on to the show. I invited all the candidates that were running against you, or for the same position on the Republican Party. And when I saw what actually happens, I was devastated because I wanted to believe in all three of them. I wanted all three of you because I wanted to believe whoever won, it was going to be right. But then when I saw that the corruption that goes behind the scene, and I saw your consistency, I saw your honesty, and I saw you act for that honesty and consistency. That was a very weird thing because here's the thing, being a black Republican is already difficult because you get it from the black side, you get it from, and then the Republican side kind of sees you as a token, and you got to kind of put them in check, like, hey, you don't tell me what to do. But then you get it from the black community doesn't understand why you are a Republican, and then so you kind of get it from both sides. But when I saw how willing to believe dishonest things and willing to make up stuff that those that were running against you for your same spot, it was just hard for me to grasp that. And seeing some of the attacks that you went under, man, I know that people probably tired of hearing this, but you kind of Chris Rock that thing, man. You got to, like, it's like, brother, because I don't know how you could have taken those false accusations the way you did. Man, I even saw your family get threatened, like messages on Facebook where you got called the N-word a lot.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
my staffers got called
N-lovers,
white staffers. There was a lot of negative things that happened during that election cycle that, nobody was prepared for. Living in the day and age that we live in and growing up how we did, obviously we grew up, in the type of environment where it's a mixed bag of people. Ethnicity is something that we just are used to, people being of a different ethnic background than what we are. I tell the story all the time about our crew. There was myself, my brother, we were black. You had Daryl, Ling, and Lung. They were Vietnamese brothers. Stephen was Korean.
You got some real thing.
And then David and Jerry were white. And, we were always at one another's home, spending the night. We grew up together. So, to experience what we went through and to have people attack us in such a manner was something that was, it was eye-opening. It was very telling, and so far as the zeitgeist of our times and how far we still need to go and what it will take for us to continue to perfect our union from a legal standpoint, and also from a spiritual standpoint. So we've got a ways to go, but I do believe that we're on the right track.
And honestly, you being willing to have conversations like this, where I know other candidates are probably trying to focus on their campaign run, where you are more focused on trying to get people to understand who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, and you are more focused on building a genuine relationship. Uh, I feel it scares me that our leaders have gotten so comfortable with kind of just like playing the people, like oh, just do this and the people will think this, or do
Right.
this, where you are genuinely saying, hey, let's really care about. I mean, I know some people do stuff like photo ops,
Right.
and I understand that marketing is important, but you don't trade the reality for the marketing.
Well, that's kind of like the whole thing that last time we talked about these endorsements.
Yeah.
Now, last time we did get Make Virginia Great Again, which was a
Yeah.
Trump's endorsement for our area. We did get that. It's something that we weren't asking for, but it happened. And we got several other nice endorsements, but like I said before, and I will continue to say, the only endorsements that I care about are the endorsements of the people in the third district.
Right.
You know, they're the only people that matter at this point. You know, I'm running in order to represent the constituents of the third. I'm not running to represent Rand Paul that lives somewhere else, or a Mitch McConnell that lives somewhere else.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter because they're not here and they don't feel the pain that we do. They're not going through the trials and tribulations that we're going through here in the third. So collecting endorsements, to me, it's like collecting garbage pail kid cards or baseball cards.
Right.
You know, yeah, the guy likes me. Okay, good.
Right.
I appreciate it.
But what are the people say? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how's that going to translate to creating policies that are going to create a better quality of life for the constituents of the third?
Well, let's jump into it because I know that last time we, you know, I told you I was going to only have you for a few minutes, and you kind of got.
You got me.
You got pulled into the vortex. It was 3 hours. The black hole. It was, but it was like, guys, it was such rich information. If you go back and look at that, I'll make sure that I put the link up in this video. I'll make sure I put the link from the last one in there so you can just really listen to it and study it. But it was so many good topics that you really just nailed. And I know that so many people on a different side want to, you know, express that, want to talk to find out who you are, what you believe, even on those deep rooted issues. Which one I want to start with the entrepreneurship. I want to start with entrepreneurship, and the reason why is because when we see the economy under attack, the only way we're going to really boost that economy is not necessarily by raising minimum wage, but how do we empower our creative people that create those bridges? You know, like when I think about before the car industry, all of that, we had no access to that wealth because that invention wasn't created. How important is entrepreneurship to you, and will you hear the voices of entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. First of all, it's multifaceted. You know, when you think about entrepreneurship countrywide, not just statewide, but let's just look at statewide. You're looking at the government who employs a little less than 50% of all employees in Virginia, and entrepreneurs or small businesses who employ something like 52%. That's substantial.
Right.
Okay. But what's happening is as a result of bogus codes and statutes that have basically driven off entrepreneurs and made them want to take their businesses to other states, namely Maryland and surrounding states, entrepreneurship has gone down. Another issue that we have with entrepreneurship is the fact that we are in our school systems creating debtor slaves, which means that we're disenfranchising people from really being able to explore what other gifts they may have. And what I mean by that is trades. Entrepreneurship in a large part, especially in this area, you're talking about your plumbers, your welders, your deep sea welders, your HVAC technicians, your computer tech, which goes into cybersecurity. People to work on these subs, people to go in and work, these really high-end paying jobs. Not only work those jobs, but to be able to go out and start their own businesses and become stakeholders. As a result of these opportunities being taken away from not only our students, but also young or middle-aged adults, entrepreneurship has gone down. These are opportunities that we once had, from VOTAC to apprenticeships, that are no longer or are dwindling. The opportunities are dwindling for constituents in the third.
How much does, since we say entrepreneurship, I know the last time that we talked, you said you have a problem with monopolies.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see, the birth of Amazon, so one side of me, I see this competitive nature where it's like Amazon's taking on UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service.
Right.
Wow, this is amazing.
Awesome.
And then there's this side, it's like, man, Amazon is making where, I can't get my products to someone within 2 days because their shipping thing is off the chain. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh man, it takes 2 weeks to get my a t-shirt for me. It takes about 2 weeks if we have to order it, but Amazon can get it stuff 2 to 3 days. And we're like, wow,
Well, there are ways that people can create businesses through, say, for example, if you're doing drop shipping. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, no.
So a lot of people are creating small businesses, or they'll go in, they'll buy products on Amazon, they'll end up starting a business where they can drop ship, and they're making pretty good money. You know what I mean? So, but the issue is that when you have monopolies that have basically taken over the industry, it is far reaching. Those tentacles tend to get into other areas.
Right.
Like, for example, when you're talking about insurance premiums, a lot of the reason why insurance premiums are as high as they are is because there's not enough competition. The competition helps to drive down the cost, and that's what we need. When you get to a situation where you have monopolies running the majority and the bulk of the industry, what you create are oligarchs. These oligarchs then can begin to lobby, and they begin to run the government. And this is the problem that we're seeing literally in the third, for example, with Mr. Scott, where money is coming in. People don't know where the money is. I'd like to see an audit of where this money is going, who's special.
Can I ask you, why do I feel that way when you say that? I go, ooh, what is why are we afraid to examine what our leaders are doing? What is that?
A part of it, I think, is ignorance is bliss. The other part, I believe, is that there's a certain amount of apathy that people have toward the political process and toward holding our leaders accountable. I think that you have a percentage of people who will go and vote and they feel as though they've done their duty. But the other half of that, the greater portion of that, is holding those leaders' feet to the fire to make sure that they are doing what they said that they were going to do. Yeah. It's a lot more than just listening to someone saying talking points that they'll never get anything done. They're just telling you what you want to hear, as opposed to actually putting in the work and making sure that the plan is completed from A to Z.
Yeah, because I know that you use a lot of strong. So everybody, let's give everybody, just because I said that, let's give everybody a little bit of your background. How many years did you spend in the Army?
7 years in the Army.
And then the Marines?
3.5.
So, then the father.
Being a father, 24 years.
Yeah. And so, and then you go to Howard. You know,
Went to
is that
Howard.
word?
Went to California School of Law. I went to Carson Newman. I have a couple of degrees from Mount San Jacinto. Went to Liberty. So yeah, I've been around.
So you've done the prep work in a way where you're not just responding to these issues of today, even in your approach and on how you approach the political realm. You've done so much prep work in other realms that you're not as dependent on.
I've literally taken pay cuts in order to receive experience.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
I would be able to know exactly what it was I was talking about. So,
And that's I think that's very well. See, I didn't know that, but that's very profound and important. I guess the reason why I'm saying this because, again, everybody, I told you that this is a different conversation. This is not an endorsement conversation. We're saying that, hey, we need to hear what this guy's talking about because he is doing something different that can't be denied, and he's willing to talk about the things that a lot of politicians will turn away from if they're not if they're not popular or if they don't have anything to do with their campaign that they're going to run on. I like somebody is like, ask him about gas prices. I talked to several young people, even my kids' age. They just want to know what happened.
we know what happened. We were finally
because you don't believe this is necessarily inflation.
No, this is planned. This is something that we were energy independent under President Trump. The Democrats want the Green New Deal. Part of that is electric cars and things of that nature, because their buddies want to go that route. And so the first thing Biden did was he came in and he shut down the oil lines.
Right.
He stopped the fracking, all that kind of stuff. Immediately, gas prices went up. Okay. So, now I think it was Washington I read that by 2030, they want to ban all gas vehicles. It's in the paper. So this is the direction that they're trying to force Americans to go against our will. I have no problem moving in a direction where we're looking at more clean energy and we want to protect the environment. Mm-hmm. I have no issue with that. But there's a procedure to doing it. You don't move in that direction by cutting off of people's livelihood, the way in which that they provide for their families. Just cut that off. You're not talking about transition. You're talking about annihilation of an entire industry. Right.
See, I think a lot of people are thinking transition.
Well, that is what any rationally minded individual would think, that there would be a gradual progression.
Yeah, but you're talking about.
So what they want to do is just cut it. But what else would you expect if you have a president that is senile and a vice president that polled at zero? Not only in her state, but also, for the presidency. So, and that's not a joke. It's not a joke.
If you guys, the reason why I'm laughing is because I definitely appreciate you saying it, because it's one of those things where it's so weird that you do ask if anyone else is seeing this. Like, am I being overcritical? Like, it's so weird. It's like, I think
I'm going to date myself here, but are we living in the twilight zone?
Right.
Waiting for the music. You remember the music, the funny music?
Yeah.
Because this is odd.
Because it's like something that like out of Austin Powers or something like that, where, because it's almost like, no, because when I even try, because I'm a believer in praying for your leaders, no matter who you are or who they are. And so it's like, okay, this is our leader. And then you hear him talk and it's like, I hear people laughing in the background and the press laughing at him. And I'm like, that's not funny. He's hurting. He's a sick old man. Right. And we just put the world on his shoulders. And I'm just going, oh my gosh.
It's cruel and unusual to do that.
That's what I feel. I feel like it's a very abusive thing that's going on. Something weird is going on behind the doors. I don't want to get into too much of the conspiracy theory, but I do appreciate you saying, hey, this is a senile situation. There's a lot of senile mistakes being made. And then I do have to ask you about the reality of how much power, when you're dealing with a regime like this, how much power are they really willing to give congressmen to make a difference in their local areas?
Well, yeah, that's you have to seize the moment if you're a leader. It's not something that you sit back and you allow someone to allow you to do something. People put you in a position so that you can lead, so that you can represent them. Your job is to be an advocate for the people. Now, if you don't have the backbone of the sand to stand up and straighten your back and stand for the people who put you in position, then you don't need to be there in the first place. Or if you're going to be a stool pigeon for a particular party, then you don't need to be there, because people are not putting you in position to represent a party. They're putting you in position
Very true.
to represent them and their concerns throughout their district.
Yeah.
Not to represent a gang.
Yeah, it's always bothered me when I hear people that I know, especially leadership that I know, has zero time in the community. And when I say the community, I'm talking about the intimate parts, the inner parts. The mom and pop shop, the restaurant? Do you know the city, or is everything just the surface level? This is my city type thing. Do you know the bodegas? That are in this area. Like, I saw you at your favorite spot, and you were saying, "Hey, man, this place needs to be rebuilt." In areas where you were going to think and run. My concern is that we have replaced the reality for entertainment, and that in itself has given the politicians the ability to create these illusions. Of what's real and what's not real, what they'll do and what they won't do. And here's someone like you comes with this, like, you just break through into reality. And in one sense, it's exciting because of that, because it's like, we don't know what to expect. Two, you do represent the most united generation of all times. We're the first real, pure generation of integration.
Right.
And we pretty much, I just had this conversation like 2 days ago where I was like, oh man, you guys, your generation has all this technology and this and that. He goes, Duke, your generation is the one that created it.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, we're the innovators? Like, our generation is the innovators? And it's amazing to see how much we honestly have accomplished. But I love the fact that we're the most united generation. Like, we set the tone of what that was going to look like. Whites, blacks, Chinese, Hispanics going to school together. Do you feel like unity is still struggling in the political realm, though?
Yeah, because there are too many fossils in Washington, too many old people. And as much as we want to respect our elders, we have to come to the realization that they just grew up in a different era than we did.
Right.
There's no way that you could have been there for 30 years and not become estranged from the rest of society. There's no way that you can be in your 70s or 80s and have the same experience that I've had in my 40s.
Right.
And I'm in my mid 40s now. You didn't grow up with a mixed bag of ethnic friends. You didn't. Because when you went to school, it
wasn't allowed.
You were segregated.
Yeah.
And we need look no further than 50 years worth of Biden propaganda. If we allow black people in our schools, they'll turn into jungles. These are super predators. And it was happening both Republican and Democrat, but this man became the poster child for that. And then you had Kamala Harris, who basically made a living off of jailing single mothers and
the defense was that there was with the war on drugs. I just want to know.
Look, is that the reason why Kamala was sued?
That's what I
And
want to know.
lost?
That's what I want.
Well, she lost.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously there's merit to what I'm saying. So there's really no excuse.
So they can't argue it at all.
You can't argue.
But because I notice every time someone brings that up, that's their go-to. That listen, we were under the war on drugs at the time, and I really appreciate if you didn't bring that back up. That's literally where, like, that's how they cut people off. It's like, hey, we were doing the war on drugs at the time.
With
We
Kamala?
Even with Kamala, because that still came under that Biden whole situation. So so you're like you're not buying any of that.
No, she graduated from Howard University. So, when you graduate from a school like Howard University, like I did, we don't put out the type of people that would make a living disenfranchising marginalized people or families. And that's basically what she did. We are set out into the world to make a difference for all people. No matter what your color, no matter what your race, no matter what sexual preference you choose or are, we are set out into the world to create a better quality of life for people, and it means something. I'm very disgusted by her actions and her past. So, and with her being a fellow of Bison, I definitely take her to task for her decision making and her actions.
I would be wrong, and this is actually a question I don't want to ask because it involves me, but it like what I do with media and things like that. I understand that media is important. Okay, I understand the power that I have. That we communication. People are trusting us to tell the right story, tell the right things. We have our own company, News Media One, that we're developing. By the way, if you want to be a journalist, we're looking for journalists. So take advantage of this opportunity. As much as I feel it's important that media covers things right, I feel like media is way too involved in political influence versus just reporting and telling. What can we do to strengthen the relationship between our political leaders and media?
I think that a lot of it has to do with the upbringing of journalists. You know what I mean? In the realm of academia, that's where everything starts.
You're right. Absolutely.
Because if you're bringing up journalists to become activists, then that's no different than
Lois Lane.
Well, Lois Lane was more of an investigative journalist.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with being passionate about something, but when you're reporting it, it should be as unbiased as possible. So when we're talking about, there's no difference between that or an activist judge. Because you have the ability to influence so much. A judge can make law from the bench. If he doesn't follow precedent, if he doesn't follow common law,
I understand that you can't. I understand you can't communicate to everybody. And I know social media has changed things. It's just over the last 8 years, even from the beginning of the show, it was just the media like creating their own narratives definitely overstepped some boundaries.
Absolutely. Well, what needs to happen is what they have done. Many of them have abused, their privileges. And see, this is the reason why laws are made. Laws are only made because people have violated their privileges. We don't create a law. There wasn't a law for stealing until someone stole something. There wasn't a law against murder until someone was murdered. There wasn't a law against white collar crimes until someone committed white collar crimes. Yeah. So now we're, if we're not careful, with the media and overstepping their bounds, there are going to be laws created against them.
Yeah, and I think that is something that maybe does need to be considered because the issue is that so many people, I realized a lot of the divisiveness was not coming from the source, but I saw this on CNN, I saw this on Fox, and it was like people were arguing the media's argument and not actually even hearing from the candidates.
Yeah, because they, they have the big stick, right? They have the microphone. They are in front of the cameras or the radio all the time. The individuals running typically are not. It costs money, to be able to do those things. So it's incredibly difficult, especially if you have activist journalists who are out there trying to push an agenda. And that is what we've seen happen, over and over and over again, and it's the majority of the people are tired of that,
Because the truth is, once something gets in your head, you do have to consider it. So when they say that narrative, you're like, now I have to think about that. Is it a possibility? But when you watch how ridiculous so much of the stuff that they came up with was, to the point where, say, I hate to do this, but say like the vaccine, right? The amount of fear that they pumped in everyone.
Prime example.
The pushback came through social media. And so you saw all these actual free thinkers who were like, so basically what you're saying is that we have to get vaccinated. We get vaccinated, then we won't get COVID unless we get COVID.
Well, then they came back and they lied about that.
Right.
It was like the vaccination, you get the vaccination, you won't catch it.
Right. And there's too much footage that said it.
There's too much out there on TV. We saw it. Now they want people not to believe what they're seeing and hearing with their own eyes and ears.
Right.
Right. So no, we didn't say that. Yes, you did. It's right there.
Right.
You said it.
And now
I took the shot. No, I didn't. But
yeah. Right.
Took the shot and boom. Now they got it.
And you want to know what's crazy, man? I knew we were going in this direction. When they took Pluto away as a planet, and I was like, wait, we can do that? That's how I knew that we were going to go. I was like, we're going to end up some weird place. Because, I remember, being like, man, I studied. Right? It's like, so now Pluto's a moon. And sure enough, just a few short years later, a couple Wu-Tang videos, a couple Wu-Tang graduation, a couple Wu-Tang videos, new music shows up, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, and now there's Transgender Nation. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, where did this, how did we get here? And so much happened so fast because honestly, I was part of, look, every time there's some type of innovation, you can have people on both sides of the coin. I didn't believe people were going to put their social security numbers on the computers, but find out a lot of people don't mind signing up with stuff and just put it out there. I didn't think MySpace was going to blow up. It blew up, but because I started seeing how much people wanted to connect. I didn't think Facebook, because that just looked too boring. I didn't think, but sure enough, people's excitement was connecting to people that normally would have just been a yearbook picture.
But Duke, you had to know that it was going to happen, especially if you were a man of faith, right? And then here's the reason why. Listen, here's the reason why. Because Bible.
Right.
So you knew that people long to
connect. Yeah.
Right. And according to that story, everybody
spoke one language. Yeah.
And so there had to be a point in time where people kind of came right back to that.
I you know what? When you put it that way, yes. I think that's why I felt so familiar because of that Tower of Babel. But when I look at the word, what Babel means, it means confusion. I'm like, I can see why, because it
are we not confused when they are lying to us on the media?
Right. And then I think you tell me you've been in Facebook jail a couple of times for just saying something about the vaccines or saying something about an injustice, and then they will block you. Like if you didn't agree with Black Lives Matter, or if you didn't agree with something that you were kind of blocked out. The fact checkers. You know what I mean? Those are a big thing. It's like
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
you can say, "Hey, I went to the store today and bought some milk," and they were like, "Fat check. Actually, it was orange juice. We're taking your post down."
Some guy in the mama's basement with messy hair
Right.
on a Wang computer with the big floppy disk.
Right.
Typing
Just mad at the world. Yeah. But so
cancel him.
yeah, cancel
I'm
culture.
liberal.
Yeah,
Cancel.
right. And so
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
you know, and I know that one of the struggles you talked about, how there's just like this older generation that's so disconnected, right?
Right.
How do you plan on communicating to such a vast amount of new characters, like to the transgender community, to the 30-year-old that's like, "Hey, listen, man, I didn't ask to be born. I'm staying with my mom and dad." You know, like to that guy, I mean, do you say, "Hey, man, you need to get out and do something"?
Yeah, you need to get up.
You know what I mean?
Some people deserve tough love. You know,
The Marine in you won't allow it.
you have to man up in some issues. But it's all about developing good, sound relationships with people, you know, and a large ingredient of developing those types of relationships are living life, you know, life experiences, being able to empathize with people, with their plight, what they've been through. And fortunately and unfortunately, I've been through a lot of different things, and I'm able to do that.
Well, let me put my horns on and little devil's advocate, because I have had several conversations where people are concerned about the increase of violence, and the comparison is always overseas, that you know, their guns are illegal overseas, and that maybe we need to get rid of the guns.
Nope.
Just nope. No deep answer. This is Madison Downs just said nope.
Nope. Shall not be infringed means exactly that. That is the reason why we don't have more of a tyrannical government, because we have a tyrannical government right now. But if there were no guns, who knows what would happen? Secondly, we don't know what's being reported and what's not being reported in other countries. Thirdly, you can't legislate matters of the heart. You know, this is the reason why family is such a big part of my campaign. My campaign is strengthening families so that we can have whole families, so that we can have a whole society.
Again, you got to put these horns on.
Go ahead.
You know, with the amount of school shootings, you know what I mean? Why would it be necessary to have automatic weapons and, you know what I mean? Things like that.
Anything that the government has, the American citizen should be able to have. I can understand that, you know, no one should have a nuclear bomb, you know what I mean? Or, you know, something like that. But no, the whole purpose is for us to be able to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government. That's what makes America so different. That's why we are able to maintain the freedom that we have. That's why other countries think twice before wanting to invade America.
And you should.
It's not the military.
Yeah, and you should.
They're afraid of the veterans, and they're afraid of everyone else who has a weapon, and it's not going to be a cakewalk.
Well, let me take the horns off now, because that felt gross. That was terrible. That was a terrible feeling. But I know people want me to ask is because there's going to be people that want to know, with your leadership, how much of your military side is coming with you as you lead, and your belief on whether that needs to be, what is it, amended? Is that what it is, amended from the Constitution?
No.
Taken out of.
I'm very if any amendments need to be changed, is we need to start to strip away some of those amendments that have been added. You know, we went from about a 2 to 3 inch Constitution to about a 7-inch thick Constitution full of amendments. That and see, the problem with these amendments is that just like codes and statutes, they directly violate our freedoms.
Right.
You know, most of the codes and statutes that we deal with on a daily basis, they directly violate our constitutional rights. You know, in some form or fashion.
But how do you think that people even know what their constitutional rights are?
I don't think so, because of the dumbing down of our education system. You know, people don't know how to fill out a checkbook. They don't know how to, in the 6th and 7th grade, they don't know their multiplication facts. So absolutely not. And you know what? This is okay for most liberals. And I say it that way because the liberals are the ones that primarily are running the education system right now. You know, so, I mean, that's just a fact. You know,
Right.
When it's like that in D.C., it's like that in Hampton and Newport News. It's just the way it is right now. So if it was a problem to these leaders, then there would be change being instituted, and it's not. So it must be okay with it.
Okay, so
I'm not okay with children remaining ignorant. You know, you don't go to school and then leave as ignorant as you were day one. You know, you don't have people who are supposed to learn cursive and multiplication and long division in the 3rd grade, and by the time they're in the 6th and 7th and 8th grade, they don't know their 9 timetables. You know, their 9s or their 8s or their 7s or their 6s. You know, you shouldn't need a calculator in order to compute that. And these are very real. You shouldn't have a problem beyond freshman English composition to know the correct placement of a comma, or to know what a preposition is, or a prepositional phrase. You know, how to write an essay, or at least the beginning stages of it. You know, so you should know civics.
yeah, no, I
You know?
get it. I just think that my son about to turn 18. I just know that wasn't an emphasis. None of anything you said wasn't an emphasis
In the curriculum.
in the curriculum. It was more like just get them all through.
Mhm.
It was more like a processing. Like they're gonna come out, you know, as a piece of slice of ham.
Right.
You know what I mean? Versus intellectual.
It's not student centered anymore. You know, and
Yeah.
and that's a real problem, because you're seeing what we get. You know, and people are graduating and not becoming stakeholders. And that's what elitists want.
Well, we're going to take a quick break real quick, and I'm going to show you a couple commercials, some things that we are working on for you guys, and I hope that you guys can appreciate the projects that you're helping us with when you support comingsoonjesus.org, when you support your Hoodies for the Homeless. You're helping us make a huge difference in the community. You're helping us. And again, we were presenting this to you because we wanted to sit down with Madison, and we know that he has a different approach towards things, and we wanted to just discuss his heart. But check out some of the things that we've got going on for you guys.
Countless men have given their lives to service in this country in military and law enforcement, and the aftermath is young men are left without fathers to lead them forward. A life camp is a camp we've built for boys that lost their fathers either from military service or law enforcement. This camp was designed to offer young men the opportunity to get out in the wilderness with a team of mentors who can guide them on their journey of what it means to become a godly man. What these guys are going to experience in this week in the great outdoors is an opportunity to learn about what it means to be a young man in characteristics that are important in life. Hard work, discipline, integrity, honesty, and really progress and grow into strong young men. The experience is over the top. We want to be there for these boys going forward for years to come.
If you know of a family we can help, or to support this ministry financially, log on to lifecampusa.org.
So we're back. That was Life Camp. And I was actually, while you guys were watching that commercial, I was actually saying to Madison how powerful his comment was when I was like, hey, what about the school shootings as far as the guns, and how he kind of reeled it back in like, hey, those are isolated events that people do terrible things with guns, but it's not worth all of us losing our rights to our ability to protect ourselves, which is just true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just true because before the school shootings, you still had people who weren't locking up their guns, and then like kids were getting hurt and things like that. And we didn't think twice. We were like, hey, just because you didn't lock your stuff up and your kid played with your gun and whatever happened, it's not. We can't give up our right to protect ourselves.
Well, you know, it has to do with being responsible. You know? And it's, you know, that's a behavioral issue.
And I think it still ties into what you said about the schools and like kids growing up ignorant.
Well, not just kids growing up ignorant, but you know, there's liability. It's incumbent upon parents to be parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was saying you can't legislate the heart, but what you can do is you can train a child up.
Yeah.
You know, in the way that they're supposed to go. You know, if you are doing what you need to do at home and teaching your child, I'm not saying that, you know, some children, they're going to go out there. Some people are just going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
We understand that. But what I am saying is this, by and large, if you're doing what you're supposed to as a parent, then you don't see those things happen in the school systems. Same thing with sending your child to school and your child is acting up toward teachers and being disrespectful toward adults. You know, if you are doing what you're supposed to do as parents, then that does not happen in school.
Yeah,
now,
it's a terrifying thought, man.
There have been many a time where I had to tell students, I'm not your mom and dad. You don't talk to me like you talk to them.
Please repeat what you said last time, because last time you said that you've actually had to deal with kids calling you Madison.
Yeah, it's a part of, it is a part of, I want to say, I don't know if it's necessarily CRT or not. But I do know that this new age style of best practices is not healthy for our children. For example, the pronoun game, it's not healthy. You're confusing children. You know, when you send your students to a school and they're referring to adults by their first name, even if you put a Mr. or a Miss in front of it. Like I had students trying to call me Mr. Madison, and that was the policy in the school. Well, what you've done, and this is a part of what BLM was trying to do, was remove fathers, remove the patriarch from the family. If you don't call me by my last name, then you've disrespected my father. You've disrespected my family. You know, you've attempted to take the father away, because where do you get your last name?
Right, your father.
From your father. And this is a part of the mind games that the brainwashing that's been happening in our school systems.
Do you feel like the education is going to ever be properly, I guess, issued out? Because you have some districts are make sure that the education is high, and they make sure that if it's technology, it's technology, that, you know, that's where they advance and they focus on, or if it's athletics, and that's where they focus on. But there's some schools where it doesn't matter how smart you can be, a valedictorian, you can be the honor roll student, never had a B in your life, and you're not guaranteed a scholarship, you're not guaranteed any type of athletic, because no one's looking at that school. What is your plan to help get schools more balanced and more effective for young people to be passionate about going to school, or even parents to be passionate about going to school? If some schools are kind of like, well, it doesn't matter how good you do, you know, there's no promise behind it. How do we deal with those school systems, or is there anything we can do?
You know, I think that's a community thing.
Gotcha.
But a part of what you're asking has a lot to do with the argument for the Department of Education. Do we need it or don't we need it? You know, and I understand both sides of that argument. In my personal opinion, I think that we do need a Department of Education.
Okay.
Specifically for students with disabilities. You know, we want to make sure that students with disabilities, no matter where they are, have the opportunity to be able to get a fair and equal education, no matter where they are in the country. You know, or that we want to make sure that students are not being disenfranchised because of race, creed, color, or gender, things
I
of that
wrote,
nature.
yeah,
You know, but the bulk of, but those things, the overarching authority of the Department of Education needs to be scaled way back, and that's not just with the Department of Education, but that also has to do with, you know, for example, veto. That has to do with the school board. There's too much authority. And so what needs to happen is authority needs to be given back to parents and teachers.
Do you
Because
think? No, yeah. And I was going to say, do you? So basically, you just answer that. So you already are saying basically that the one thing that we didn't want was government in our house, and that they found a way into the house through the kids. Is that what you're saying?
Say that one more time.
Is that what you're saying? That the government found its way through? Like the one thing we didn't want was more government in our homes, but through the school board, they kind of found a way.
Well, that was the purpose of public schools from the beginning, and people don't really understand the history of how public schools came about. You know, there was an individual, I can't remember his name. I keep wanting to say Piaget, but that's not him. I know it's not him. But anyway, he went over to Germany. He fell in love with their public school system. He saw the way in which students were being brought up and taught. But the other part of that is that the indoctrination that was taking place.
Right.
Okay. And so the state was able to get a hold on the mindset of the younger people, the younger generations. Anyway, this person brought this system back. As at the beginning, education was primarily a religious thing. You had pastors and priests that were, you know, and that were doing education. Then public school came in, okay, and we are where we are now. You know, so did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
It's the campaign manager.
Right. I agree with that. You know, it does have to, one of the things that needs to be created in our school systems is that parents have to understand their power, and teachers need to be able to take back their classrooms. And that's one of the great reasons that Madison and I agree on, and it's actually part of my own platform. So, and when you were talking about that, I was like, that's a great.
Parents need more. Parents need to know their power.
Yes, parents need to know their power, and teachers need to have control, you know, more control of their classrooms. We've run into a situation where, you know, honestly, there are people who would be excellent educators who won't do it because they feel like they need to have hazard pay to go into these classrooms, you know, because teachers aren't supported. And, you know, but alongside that, you have these individuals who use school boards as stepping stones to further political action versus doing what it is that they
I think there has to be some type of alignment with. I mean, obviously, you know, the orders come.
There's nothing wrong with someone seeing a school board position as a stepping stone to another position. There's nothing wrong with that at all, because I mean that is a springboard to other positions. What needs to happen though is that when you're in said positions, that you are true to the position that you're in. You know,
right.
You're focused on it.
You're
Yeah.
focused,
So, you can't be focused on this when you. I got you.
Yeah, that your commitment is to the position that you have. You know, it's not. I'm not saying that, you know, you can't move into other roles, but your motivations for getting on a school board should not be, you know, to become you
The
know,
mayor.
to get to become a mayor.
Yeah.
It should be because you have a passion to serve these children, and if you move into a different role by happenstance, then that's great.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that either. I don't get into people's motivations.
Okay.
Because somebody's motivation to do something is, as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, where they are, then that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I may be motivated to run for Congress because down the road I may want to be a governor or maybe even president. So my motivation to run for Congress may be to be president someday. So
as long as you're aligning to the
Right.
principles,
Right.
I think it makes it easier for the people to know that somebody's passionate
Right.
about what they're doing.
Right.
There's a as far as relative or like relationally, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so if I already know someone's passing through, it's like that person's probably that person. Like you said, as long as they're doing by the principle, it may not be the ushy-mushy feelings, you know, but at least they're in there for the right principles.
Right,
You know?
and they can show that they're people of progress.
Yeah.
Versus,
and usually those people are the same people that leave legacy behind and say, okay, because if someone is going through the process, but then there's that person that says, hey, I want to hold it down. They've left me a good playing field to leave, and that's why I said there has to be some type of alignment. Because if we have a leadership that genuinely skyrockets from the opportunity, but they genuinely care, and we actually build other people, kind of like the people that you guys are connected to, the community leaders that are already doing things that care. That's a powerful team.
Right, exactly. It's being able to have individuals who come into these roles that have the desire to continue to make that local role upwardly mobile, to continue to make sure that those things that they put in place when they're in that role can be continued even if
I
they
think
move
that
into
what happened
another
was
position.
I think what happened was we got so caught up in the celebrityism.
That's it.
That we forgot that these are people in our local community that actually are making real decisions for our life.
Exactly.
It's like, what are the Kardashians and Kanye doing? Hey, what is your congressman doing? Do you see what I'm saying? We've gotten totally distracted by because most people don't even know the power that congressmen have.
Well, I think that
or the school board.
Yeah, it's. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that's in large part because the world has just gotten smaller because of social media and TV and all of that.
Yeah, back in the day it was TV.
But just to rein all that back in, the greater issue always falls back on the way that we're rearing up our children, and that has a lot to do with the education system. If we are not training up our children correctly in school to understand the importance of civics, to understand the importance of computation, to understand the importance of composition, then what you will get is an idle mind. An idle mind then will go out and focus on the things that are not important. And what is important is that we are creating people, young people who can go out into society and become stakeholders, who can become business owners, who are not debtor slaves, all right? Who do not become, and you'll hear me say debtor slaves over and over and over again, because a debtor slave is a new form of chattel slavery. And that's it. The only difference is they're not enslaving people because of their skin color. Now they're enslaving people because of financial status.
But so I don't even know what's going on with crypto and all this other stuff. But the thing is that I think the wealth gap is an effect of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
That the wealth gap is an effect of the information gap,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that naturally it's affected the Black community in a certain way because the information was already, I think that was kind of done strategic in a certain way. But the internet, like you said, the world just got smaller. Now we can grab hold of this information, but we still run into these roadblocks of the bank needing to know what your ethnicity is on the bank, whether they're going to give you the loan or not, and all that stuff. That becomes very problematic to a certain degree. What do you think that we have to do to correct the financial education system? Is that something that you would want to see in schools?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
And what grade is appropriate to start talking about finances?
6th grade.
Right around the same time you're talking about math.
Yeah. When you start getting into like pre-algebra, why not start talking about finances? I mean, that was the age that we used to do home ec. Right?
You're
we
right.
used to learn
On
how
my
to
sister's
cook
biscuits.
eggs,
Yeah.
around that. So that's the time, that's the age where it is appropriate to begin to learn how to live life, how to take care of oneself. That was the purpose for learning home ec.
Do you think learning how to invest is part of that?
Absolutely. If you don't want a society full of slaves, yes. You need to know what to do with your money. Most people don't realize that the importance of owning property. Most people don't realize that if you own a home, your home becomes your bank. Most people don't realize the power of refinancing and what you can do with that money in order to maybe put money away and have a nest egg or vacation or start a business, or heaven forbid you lose your job, you can sustain yourself for a year or two, while you build upon something else. These things are not taught. Another thing within the financial arena is the rubric by which these financial institutions are using in order to decide who they're going to loan to. You mentioned pulling ethnicity. Well, I mentioned it, and then you mentioned the fact that I mentioned it. Pulling ethnicity off of applications. Certainly, we need to do that. And the reason why we need to do that is I just like to know what the rubric looks like. Insofar as how we are deciding who gets what money. And if you pull the ethnicity off, will someone named Jaquan receive less money than someone named Johnny Smith? I'm just really curious about how this actually pans out, because there have been studies, even recent studies, that talk about the marginalization within the financial industry insofar as people receiving money or being able to refi in an equitable manner, in a fair and equal manner. And if we didn't have these problems in the past, then there'd be no laws against redlining or anything like that. So these are truisms, and these are facts that continue to this day.
So do you believe that race does play a part in financial education and financial opportunities that are available?
I cannot confirm or deny whether or not race actually plays a part. But if we eliminate, it's like this. In the Marine Corps, they taught us to make sure that we locked our footlockers. Right. That doesn't mean that the Marine recruit next to you is a thief. Right. But what it does do is it makes sure that he does not become one. You see what I'm saying? So by eliminating certain things within the process, I'm not saying that people are racist or bigoted in the manner in which they go about the decision-making process. But what we can do is we can eliminate certain things and make sure that they don't become that way.
Yeah. How do we? Okay, so I know that you said several times over about, you brought it back to education several times over. But if I taught you being a teacher, when I have personal conversations with you or any other teacher, it does usually go to, hey man, we got these parents are jacked up, you know what I mean? Or how do we? It's like, everybody's putting this pressure on the parents. So my simple solution, and I wanted to tell you, what do you think about this? Do you get more passion out of the teacher if you pay more? Or do teachers need to have more of a relationship with the families?
Oh, it's all of the above.
It's all of the above?
Yeah, for one, no teacher, in my opinion, should be making less than 60. You know what I mean? You're asking teachers to be educators, counselors, mothers, fathers, you know, uh, in-home counselors, guidance counselors. There's so much that teachers are asked to do, and they hardly have time for their own families. And by the time they get home, they're spent. They're spending money out of their own pocket for supplies and things of that nature.
Yeah.
There's a lot that people don't realize that teachers are doing. But just like in
Honestly, including physically being hit.
We had a teacher in Hampton Roads get dumped on her head recently, and I don't know what happened with that. I've been in schools where I've seen teachers end up with broken bones behind students. Students have brought in weapons. There are all kinds of things that happen during the course of a regular school day that people are just unaware of, that teachers have to endure. But just like any profession, you do have your bad apples, right? So I think that, we need to make sure that we're don't bring in a child to teach children, bring in adults, who have some life experience, because that person,
that's real.
This goes to speak toward your comment about relationships with families.
Yeah.
So that older person would be able to develop a better relationship with an older couple with a child. They have some life experience behind it.
Yeah.
So that's important, especially in the learning environment. If you've never done anything or been anywhere other than to college, there's not much you can teach other than the mechanics. And teaching is much, much more than just books.
So to go to the far wherever, actually no, because it's directly connected. It is connected. I know the last time we got to dab into nutrition a little bit about the young people being able to have access to food and food deserts, and being able to concentrate, in school. So we have the WIC program, we have WIC, and but how do we help our young people who, even if we were to change, even if we were to get these classes in about understanding finances, they can't concentrate because they're hungry. How do we deal with that? And is that more of a community issue, or is that
again, it's all the above. It's all the above. What's happened, I think, over the course of the last several decades is that we have gravitated to a point in our society where people pretend that they live on some island.
You're right.
But guess what? You can't step out of your door without seeing a neighbor.
Right.
Which is indication that you ain't on no island.
Right.
You know what I mean? We need one another in order to move forward. Or we're held back by one another.
Yeah.
So it's all the above. The community does need to step in. The government does need to ante up in certain aspects insofar as programs. Students are now receiving more breakfast in school, but by and large, a lot of those breakfasts that they receive are not long breakfasts.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, the nutrition needs to, we need to look at the manner in which and how we're feeding our children, because, that plays a role insofar as whether or not a student can concentrate throughout the day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I never wanted to be the guy that said it's the music that we're listening to, or the, I knew something else was going on. How much does negative influences from the entertainment world and all of that stuff, how much do you believe that that plays a role in our children's ability to, concentrate, be respectful,
Tremendous.
Okay.
It's tremendous. I mean, it's like step away from music. If I have a child and I'm always praising that child and telling my child how beautiful they are, or my daughter
I
how
know what
beautiful
you're
they are, and you're so good at this. And I don't focus on the negative things, but I always focus on those positive things. So then what I'm doing is I'm building that child up in the same manner with music. If
Yeah.
we're listening to the pleasant things,
Yeah,
things that are uplifting and that are building us
you're
up,
naturally.
you're naturally going to build that. Now, if you're listening to something negative, then the opposite's going to happen. Then on top of that, scientifically speaking, just the vibrations, certain vibrations are negative toward our heart.
Right.
Certain sounds and decibels.
Did you? I did not know that. I didn't know that
Yeah.
there's certain.
So yeah, and these are all facts. So the negative type music is negative in more ways than just psychologically. It is also negative in a physical way.
Huh? Because I come from I remember kids, like I knew what kids were going to look like the next day in school based off what was on television the day before, you know what I mean, or what the commercial was, and that was, I mean, without fail. I remember when Snoop Dogg came out, it was like we knew that cats was gonna be wearing them hoodies. Yeah. And it's like, man, you don't even know it. You don't even know what gin is, gin and juice, and all that stuff. But it's amazing that they were able to create that culture, and that let me know that young people really do want to connect.
Right.
Because just 20 years before that, everyone was wearing suit and ties because that's what was on the media, whether it was from Brother Malcolm or Brother Martin.
Right.
That suit and ties, was people were running towards education because they saw the beauty of it, and Hollywood and entertainment. Now, I do know. Do you believe that with that information gap with wealth and that it's also the same as far as mental illness and mental health? I don't say mental illness, but deal with mental health issues. Do you think it's the same struggle that the powers that be have communicating the financial realm and the mental health realm? Because those are two subjects that you don't really see talked about in your schools.
I think what I'm hearing you ask me is, do I feel that socioeconomic background and status can affect the mental health of the community?
That's actually what I'm saying.
Individuals.
He's in the same. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Absolutely. If a person is brought up in the type of a socioeconomic status where they are a have-not, they are struggling to eat every day, they don't have warm clothes, their shoes have holes in them. When they walk outside in the rain, their feet are wet, they go home, they catch pneumonia. They see that their mom and dad are struggling. Yes, that's going to have a profound effect on their mental health. Absolutely. Why else would we be discussing PTSD for veterans? Because the environment has a way of affecting one's mental health.
Man, the reason why this frustrates me hearing you say this is because of the amount of adults that I clearly remember. When they were trying to encourage me, they would use other kids as examples. Do you want to be like so-and-so and so-and-so? And that's so hurtful. You know what I mean? Because I even remember being like, no, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. But hearing you say that, it's like, this is why that was wrong. Because those kids were probably going through pure hell at home and having to conjure up the strength to even sit around kids who, I have both my parents. You know what I mean? So to have to even go to school around kids who have both and this and that, and who can get things when, throw a little attitude, and you can get what you want. But there are some parents that, you see what I'm saying?
Listen,
like, that's such a sad thing.
I hear you. Here's the problem that we run into in our society is that we want to select and choose what illnesses are good for what subgroup of people. And let's talk about what happened January 6th. and compare that to people who were marching as a result of feeling disenfranchised by an overarching police.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a prime example.
Yeah.
Where we are looking at, for example, the people who marched January 6th. All right. So by and large, what you had were a group of people, no matter what their race, it doesn't matter. Throw that out.
Right.
Everybody's gray. Nobody has a color.
All right.
On both sides. All right. Imagine, if you will, with me, a world where there's no color.
All right.
Okay. So you have a group of people who have decided, hey, the government, we're feeling marginalized. We're feeling disenfranchised. They come up with these codes and statutes. They've shut down our businesses. I've lost my home as a result of these unconstitutional codes and statutes. We have tyrannical people in government who are directly influencing my finances to the point where I cannot provide for my family. So I'm going to march to Washington. Right? And I'm going to say something about it. And you're right. I'm pissed off, and I have every right to be pissed off. There's nothing wrong with that. So in the same manner, on the flip side of the coin, you had people who felt marginalized and disenfranchised by an overarching municipality that was over-policing them. Okay? People were being killed on TV.
Yeah.
And we all saw what was happening.
Yeah.
And look, so they marched. There's nothing wrong with that. What was wrong with both of those situations, there are a couple things. Number one, you had fringe groups that attached themselves to peaceful protesters.
Yeah.
On both sides, and began to destroy property and to invade property. That's where the law was broken on both sides. But it does not change the fact. It does. Hold on, let me finish this, okay? Because this is important. It does not change the fact that those people who felt marginalized and disenfranchised were doing the right thing and exercising their constitutional rights according to the law.
Mm-hmm.
But then what did we have? We had elitists, people who want to be oligarchs, who use the propaganda media on both sides.
It's true.
And the fringe groups, they use those fringe groups as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they try to paint a picture of the peaceful protesters that was untrue, which caused a wedge in the people. But people on both sides are not looking at it. So this is what I'm saying. We can't pick and choose.
They're looking at the extremes.
Well, we're picking and choosing who we're going to accept and who we're not going to accept. And not looking at the circumstances and saying, why is this happening? And the reason why the majority of these things are happening is because we have people who have been in Washington for far too long. They have marginalized and disenfranchised their constituents. They have become estranged from the people who they're supposed to represent.
Right. That's good.
And they don't give a damn.
Right.
And so you're leaving people, regular people, no matter what the color are, what their color is, out in the cold. And they're doing what they need to do in order to survive. And these people did it legally. They tried to march and they tried to protest. It was the fringe groups on both sides that caused the problem.
Now, how do you feel about the idea that it was staged and all that stuff?
Part of it may have been. I mean, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but nowadays, I don't put anything past it. I mean, certainly when you look at the news, some of the same people that were arrested in Portland was arrested in Washington,
right? From
BLM or whatever the case, or at least if they weren't a part of BLM, they were definitely wearing a t-shirt.
Well, now, I saw that.
Or Antifa.
I do have to ask you about. All right, everybody. This is the type of stuff that I'm talking about with Madison. Before I ask him this question, we're actually going to take a quick break. I wanted to show you guys something for young people because I'm about to bring something up really with young people. And I'm so glad we brought this up because I do feel like there is a complete injustice that is taking place, possibly with our young people. And the reason why you're going to come back and listen to after this quick message is because we're talking about bathrooms. Bathrooms with our young people and little boys and girls be going to the bathroom the same. We'll be right back.
Can you see by the dawn's early light?
We know that it's not a black or white thing, but somebody made it black or white.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. That's right.
Somebody made it a black or white thing.
Mm-hmm. My lawyer's black, my doctor's black, this one's black, so this stuff isn't really happening to black people.
I know why the Klansmen despise me because of his ignorance, but I don't know what's your problem. All right.
If this is America and we're supposed to pride ourselves on being free, I don't want to trade white oppression for black oppression. Where black people telling you can't listen to this, you can't love this person, you can't go here because that's a white. But now you just a dark-skinned white man there.
One day when our house caught on fire and I wasn't there, these two people that hated each other both came to my bedroom thinking I was in there, pulled my bed out on fire thinking I was still in there. Oh. The colors didn't matter at that moment, not a bit.
We the people, and we all in this room together. So be human as you walk out of here. Don't be black or white, be human.
Hopefully, it was more than just dinner. Hopefully, it was dinner and a movement.
As a first-time voter, I wanted to give you guys some awesome tips about voting and why I think it's important for you guys to get out there and vote as young people. First, your voice does matter. Always remember that. Second, make sure you do your research first and always know that you do have the right to make your own decisions. So don't go based on things about your parents' vote, but if they have opinions, respect them. But make sure that you are stepping forward and going to the rallies and the meetings, and even make sure you're watching for the news, because sometimes the news can be wrong. So again, that goes back to the research thing. But again, always make sure that you are going to their websites, going to the websites and reading what they're about. But there always are civil ways to do things, especially what's going on in America with the riots and young people thinking that's the only way they can get their voice heard. But there is always more civil ways to do things. So go out there, vote, and do what you have to do.
All right. We are back with Madison Downs, and before we left, I told you that I was going to ask him a couple questions just about how safe our young people are. Now I already talked to you about that. Now I don't know. It can be a little confusing because it's like hey, we're going to protect our gun rights. Right. We have our right to bear arms, even though we know that there's school shootings and things like that.
Not be infringed.
Right. So, and then now we have but then it's almost like this bombarding of manipulating our children. Now there's the whether young men and girls should have unisex bathrooms because of the transgender audience. Do you believe that when we talk about too much government, do you believe that the government should be involved in this conversation?
Should the government be
involved
to the extent that they follow what the people's will is?
So if the people say that, then the people agree that boys and girls should use the bathrooms together, and have transgenderism taught in schools. If that's what people want, we think that's what we should. The government say no? This isn't right. I mean.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't like the way you phrase that. But
Neither do I.
Here, the government is a tool of the people.
Right.
Okay. The government should not ever tell people what to do. The only authority that the government has is the authority that was given to it
by the people.
Right. So, first of all, unisex restrooms. I think it's fine if only one person can go in at a time. Okay. So,
Gotcha.
for example, if you have a singular bathroom and you got it's unisex, it's got the boy or the man and the woman, and then only one person can occupy it at a time.
Yeah,
that's fine. But if there are multiple stalls in there, and I don't think that anyone with an XX chromosome should be in the same restroom with someone with an XY chromosome. And I say it that way because we don't want any confusion. I'm not the judge trying to be on the Supreme Court at the moment. So I don't have any confusion between men and women and boys and girls. So little boys have a wee-wee, little girls have a vagina. At that age, we should not be pushing any sort of agenda insofar as sexuality upon our little ones. And we shouldn't be confusing them by playing pronoun games.
But do you think this is an extension of sex education that came in through
It has
schools?
nothing to do with sex education. What does that have to do with sex education?
Right. I mean, that's what they've attached themselves to in a lot of cases.
Yeah, well, people can attempt to attach themselves to whatever,
And then that's the civil rights movement.
Yeah, well, anyone who is black, well, I don't even refer to myself as black, I'm melanated, but anyone who has experienced, I have experienced bigotry, real bigotry, being the first Hebrew chaplain. I have literally had to cross parking lots with people screaming at me because they didn't want to recognize my clergy position.
Right.
I have been called into storage rooms by colonels who came down from Washington
because
had me stand at the position of attention and walk around me in a circle, look at me from head to toe, and say to me, "I've never seen a black Jew."
Oh no!
I've experienced those things. So I know what that's like. So when we're talking about what we're talking now, about
gender, kids going to all that
civil rights attaching.
Okay, well, that's one, that they've attached to.
That's apples and oranges. Being a certain color is or having a certain amount of hue in your skin has nothing to do with the decision that I make with who I want to lay with.
Well,
and I put it that way because guess what? For all those pseudo intelligent people who decide to say that they were born a certain way, that's not what I said. What I said was there's a difference between a person who was born with a certain amount of hue in their skin,
right,
and being disenfranchised because of that look, than being talked about a certain way because of who you decide to lay with. That is a choice versus something that you are innately born with that you can't change. There are no choices.
I think this, the liberal assumption is very bold of them. Those who want to attach to such a sacred thing for people who went through so much tyranny, so many hardships. We're talking about to claim, the hurt. It's funny. It's a lot of people are saying that the slap that was heard across the world with Will Smith and Chris Rock, like it overshadowed so many of those people that worked so hard to get Grammys, and to come back because they didn't have to wear masks and they could really just be around each other, and the slap overshadowed so much. And I think when the homosexual community tried to attach to the civil rights movement,
disrespectful.
You agree with that?
Disrespectful. No, it's not the same thing. If you want your own movement, then you start your own movement, but you don't attach it to my ancestors and what we've been through with the Gullah Wars and Trail of Tears. And when you start talking about the truth behind history, it's not the same. It's disrespectful.
I need everybody to think about that for a minute, because we're definitely not trying to. Some things have been said already that will make people take a step back. Like, whoa, man, are we really talking about a generation that is so easily offended? I mean, you definitely you would offend the black community because you're a Republican, and then you would offend the Republican community because of your understanding of what this generation needs, and you don't have a lot of the antiquated thinking that a lot of Republicans have.
Just think of me as one big nerve.
Right. You have the nerve.
If that nerve is exposed,
yeah,
you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
But if you take care of that nerve, then you know that everything is okay. So
Don West, go ahead. Don West says, good interview. Thank you. We got to wake up Norfolk. Wake up from being bullies to being open-minded and not shut up, sit down and go along mentality. Do you feel like that's kind of what's been happening? Just kind of, everybody's been having to just kind of go along with whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's been typical of the entire 3rd District over the last 30 years. That's the only way that you can have a 30-year incumbent, because everyone has kind of just gone along with status quo, So, I mean, that's literally what has happened.
Wow.
In order to have an incumbent there for 30 years.
She just said that, speaking of guns, when I went to Norview High School, Norfolk, back in 1980, we had a marksmanship team that competed with the other local public schools. My friends used to bring his rifle to school team practices.
Yeah.
So they actually had a marksman, like they learned how to shoot in school.
Well, think about it, though. We're talking about, you have to look at, all right, remember I tell you can't legislate matters of the heart.
Right.
And a large part of my campaign is strengthening families, right? In order to strengthen families have to have stable incomes. You look at the average price of a home back in the 70s, it was like $26,000. $26,000. Maybe.
Take me back.
Right? Come on now. Imagine what you were getting for $50,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? I understand that the wages were lower back then, but still, with inflation and everything, you have families that are basically struggling to make ends meet. You have broken homes where you have single parents. These kids are out there, and the amount of time that parents were able to spend with their children back in the 70s and 80s was vastly different than what we are seeing today.
Yeah, just so you know, when I got my first car, I was doing, I could find a spot that was 82 cent gas, and then
70,
70, yeah, I did 86.
Yeah.
82 as far as I went, because you're a little bit older than me, but 86 is far. 82, I found a couple spots that was 82, but I remember 86. I was like, whew.
I think I can remember some 65 cent gas down in certain parts of Georgia. You know what I mean? But being young and stuff, you want
you're not paying attention.
Out of there.
You're not paying attention.
Certain parts, when you're driving across country, certain parts of Mississippi, you just
British. So we have a young man walking across America who he started in Florida. He's walking through to Washington State. He started in Pensacola, Florida, and walking all the way to Washington State. We had the opportunity to go on a little bit of the walk with him, and we got to sit down with the Grand Wizard of the KKK and have a conversation with him.
They think it's not real.
Right. So when you said zoom through, I'm like, yeah. I remember those feelings. I do want to encourage everybody to,
and don't even know why.
Right.
They don't even know why.
Something's in the atmosphere. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's like I saw your work on that.
Yeah.
They didn't have a problem with you.
Right.
You know, me on the other hand, they might. we might have had a few disagreements, but at the end of the day, I think we would all get along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Do you find the Confederate flag offensive?
Do I find it offensive? No. Because I know the history behind it originally. I think that I think that it's ignorant of the new meaning behind it that certain people want it to represent. But the flag in and of itself, no, I don't think it's a rag. It doesn't. No.
How do you feel about the monuments coming down? Do you think that was overboard?
I think that certain monuments belong in a museum. For example, if you have a person who represented slavery, right, in Virginia, and I have to go and then you make a statue of that person, and they're in front of a courthouse.
Well,
I don't need to be walking into a courthouse where some slave master and his statue is there. All right. Because it's a courthouse for all people where we're supposed to receive the type of justice that's supposed to be equal and equitable to all. So that statue in and of itself is sending a message to me that something is wrong. Now, do you want to destroy the statue? No, because we want to preserve our history and we want our young people to learn how we got better as a society. It doesn't mean tear things down or print your graffiti on it. No, you respect the history. You put it in a place where it can be used to foster education for generations to come. But in certain areas you leave it up. In certain areas you leave it up. But look, I'm not going to be walking I'm not going to be walking into a courthouse and look at a slave master. That's a problem.
Right. How do you feel when people say things like, if black people would stop shooting black people, then we wouldn't see such a high crime rate amongst black people? But it's black people killing black people, not police officers killing black people.
I think that's an ignorant statement because most crime happens to people who live in proximity of one another.
Right.
So, if you have a lot of white people or Asian people who then they're the ones that's going to be committing the crimes against other Asians or other white people. So typically speaking, and then when you look across the stats, percentage wise, it's all pretty much equal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I heard the same thing about guns. I heard there are more people dying from knife related incidents than there are guns.
Yeah. Yeah, or just fists, or whatever the case, So,
now you went to Howard University, and just so you guys know what I'm actually doing is it's not that I'm bouncing around. I'm just talking about things that are important from different angles, just so you can get to know him as a person, so that I can get to know him as a person, because we have a great relationship, but I want. It's just it's so important, I think, for people to see your heart.
Let me. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Because I know that statue question is a
on
trigger.
On people's mind.
It's a trigger for certain people.
Okay.
Let me explain something to all the people who may or may not like my answer on that. I'm 45. Those young people coming up after me, they can't stand anything having to do with racism.
White or black.
So it would be our generation that would preserve the history. It would be our generation that would take those statues and put them in places where we could learn for futures to come, for generations to come. Those other generations, X and all that, they'll tear the statues down and destroy them.
And that I've heard so many people, I've heard blacks and whites say that.
So here's the issue. Don't get mad at me because you hear a dose of reality. because I'm not going to be the type of politician that's going to say what you want to hear. Because what you want to hear oftentimes is not what's going to be good insofar as creating a better quality of life for all of us. You know, a lot of people, they want politicians to come. And first of all, I'm not a politician. I guess, no, I have to stop saying that. I am a politician now. All right. But I'm not going to be the type of person that's just going to say what sounds good.
Yeah.
You know, because it is not going to be what is going to edify us, to make us better.
Right.
Oftentimes, we have to process our way through these issues.
I think that process that you're talking about,
it's pragmatic. You have to be pragmatic.
Because what we've been doing is dealing with polarization versus process.
Right.
The two ends not coming together, just arguing at each other, making points, maybe even making good points, but not resolve isn't part of it. I think process leads to resolve.
Right.
You know, that conversation leads to resolve. She's Don says, now you're talking real estate and residential. Okay. She says, you're talking real estate. I'm a residential real estate specialist. Yep. Back in 1955, a 3-bedroom was a 3-bedroom attic garage home was under $20,000.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was under 20. Yeah, I think it was somewhere around $26,000-$30,000 for a decent home. Now, I mean, listen.
Now, did this happen because? Okay, so did this happen because young people weren't voting? How did 18-year-olds were they a part of this conversation? 18 to say 30-year-olds, or was these the older generation making these decisions to cause or create this type of inflation where from under $20,000 a home, now the same home is like $430,000.
In my opinion, and that this will require research, you know.
No, we weren't paying attention.
Well, the majority of the hike and then the inflation in the homes, I want to say took place between the 80s, 90s.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so for example, you could buy a decent 2-story home and say, for example, let's think of an expensive area like Northern Virginia, in the Woodbridge area. A decent home for maybe $120,000.
Absolutely.
That home nowadays is worth $500,000. The same home. The problem that we're having is the fact that just like people, it's the inflation, but not being backed up by higher wages. You know, and a part of that is, remember the last election cycle, I was adamantly opposed to hiking up minimum wage.
Right.
$2.50.
You were very adamant.
Very adamant against that. And one of the things I said was, you know, as soon as they do that, then you won't. I think I said it. That'll be about the price of a Big Mac combo. Right?
Yeah.
So nowadays, all right, so minimum wage is $15 an hour in most places, right? A Big Mac combo is about $12. Gas is $4 and some change. If you have a nice car, then it's $5. You know, so but where's the hike in the wages and the salaries? It's not there. You know, and so what we see happening with what the Democrats are doing, they want to push this Green New Deal. They want to, like in Washington, they want to say that by 2030, I'd like to see them attempt to stop gas cars from driving through Washington in 2030. That's what they you know, so that's the test pilot state, right? So it's going to be interesting to watch and see how this all develops. But the point is that they're trying to create this new caste system.
Yeah.
You know, where free market and enterprise is no longer a part of the equation.
Are we talking about socialism right now? Are you saying that's what the invasion is? Slowly, maybe not overtly, but
it's socialism capped by a system of oligarchs that have created a caste system whereby
Because I can hear someone totally yelling, "That's socialism!"
Where you have at the lower end, which would be the bulk of society, chattel slaves. In the name would be indebted slavery. So
Don says, "Oh, that is a whole other conversation. Finances since 1955. We're going back to the Federal Reserve days when Wilson got us all typed up with that money system, inflation gold standard. Whole nother conversation. A long time, a long one too. So she says it's a long conversation, not only just another conversation. Sad stuff right there to dive into. So basically, one generation pretty much made decisions putting another generation in debt.
Well, it's the same generation that is in Washington right now.
They did it.
Those fossils,
right,
that are in Washington right now,
right?
The Mitch McConnells, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Maxine Waters, the Bobby Scotts, those folk,
right? Was it borrowed money or made decisions that's now costing us?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's costing us. They have not only halted progress, but now they are standing in the way of progress, which is the reason why we need these fossils out of Washington. Some people like to call it the swamp, whatever you want to call it, whatever terminology or semantics you choose, these fossils have got to go.
Yeah.
And furthermore, with the amount of codes and statutes and legislation they have created that have directly violated our constitutional rights, I am the first person to say that we need to begin to try and convict any politician who promotes a bill, creates a bill, supports a bill that violates the oath that he took to uphold, which is to support and defend the Constitution, U.S. or state. If you are a federal, then obviously U.S.
This is how I feel like there's an abusive language or abusive relationship with the people and the government, because I know that they wouldn't have a problem if I didn't do my taxes or something like that. They wouldn't have a problem throwing me in jail, right? They would have a problem, trying to make life hard for me to get what they want. Right. But I cringe when I hear you say that, like holding them accountable. That's almost like watching a slave hit a slave master. You go, "Ooh, master will really be mad now." You know what I mean? When you say, you say hold them accountable, and it's like, oh, treason. But if they've already betrayed the Constitution, right, like when did that become so acceptable?
When did that become okay?
To betray the, like before it was almost like, you've messed with our constitutional rights, like you knew something was about to go down, and now it's more like this is anything that kind of goes. I gotta play another commercial from one of our sponsors. This is a production that we got to do of a young soldier coming home, and this is More Legacy Group. Thank you very much, More Legacy Group, for everything that you do for our people. But check it out, folks.
Real quick, I know somebody who may have. Turn around.
Mommy!
Okay, did we get you?
an epic moment. Our Army personnel, Miss Ashley Jensen, just got home from her deployment from Kuwait and Iraq, and this is the first time setting eyes on her home. First time, literally. And she just had a chance to be with her daughter as well, too. Wait, first I want to do is give you the tour of the garage, but also the backyard.
Come on, Mason.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it looks so good in here.
Oh, I like those.
The pictures didn't do it no justice. Y'all really overdid yourselves right now. This is my house? It looks good in here. Oh,
I tasted before I left the brand.
oh, y'all found a good place to put the benches too? Because I didn't even look at that. Oh, Mason.
Coming home party.
It's so good in here.
This is what it's all about.
What is all about, y'all?
Helping people, especially our soldiers, our military,
Oh, look at
that come
my
to a place they
room.
can call their own, which is home.
Regular bed. Oh, it looks so nice.
Closer, can you see by the dawn's early light?
We know that it's not a black or white thing, but somebody made a black or white.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
That's right. Somebody made a black or white thing.
My lawyer's black, my doctor's black, this one's black, so this stuff isn't really happening to black people.
I know why the Klansman despise me because of his ignorance, but I don't know what's your problem. All right.
If this is America and we're supposed to pride ourselves on being free, I don't want to trade white oppression for black oppression. You know, where black people telling you, you can't listen to this, you can't love this person, you can't go here because that's a white. But now you just a dark-skinned white man there.
One day when our house caught on fire and I wasn't there, these two people that hated each other both came to my bedroom thinking I was in there, pulled my bed out on fire thinking I was still in there. The colors didn't matter at that moment, not a bit.
We the people, and we all in this room together. So be human as you walk out of here. Don't be black or white, be human.
Hopefully, it was more than just dinner. Hopefully, it was dinner and a movement.
As a first-time voter, I wanted to give you guys some awesome tips about voting and why I think it's important for you guys to get out there and vote as young people. First, your voice does matter. Always remember that. Second, make sure you do your research first and always know that you do have the right to make your own decisions. So don't go based on things about your parents' vote, but if they have opinions, respect them. But make sure that you are stepping forward and going to the rallies and the meetings, and even make sure you're watching for the news, because sometimes the news can be wrong. So again, that goes back to the research thing. But again, always make sure that you are going to their websites, going to the websites and reading what they're about. But there always are civil ways to do things, especially what's going on in America with the riots and young people thinking that's the only way they can get their voice heard. But there is always more civil ways to do things. So go out there, vote, and do what you have to do.
Countless men have given their lives to service in this country in military and law enforcement, and the aftermath is young men are left without fathers to lead them forward. A life camp is a camp we've built for boys that lost their fathers either from military service or law enforcement. This camp was designed to offer young men the opportunity to get out in the wilderness with a team of mentors who can guide them on their journey of what it means to become a godly man. What these guys are going to experience in this week in the great outdoors is an opportunity to learn about what it means to be a young man in characteristics that are important in life. Hard work, discipline, integrity, honesty, and really progress and grow into strong young men. The experience is over the top. We want to be there for these boys going forward for years to come.
If you know of a family we can help, or to support this ministry financially, log on to lifecampusa.org.
All right, we are back, guys. I hope everybody is enjoying themselves and getting ready to it's almost that time for change. I mean, we know that something's happening in our community, and we've got to do something about it. We've got to really be okay with making that change. We got to be brave enough to make the changes, and I think that one of the things that's happening is that we've got to be encouraged and brave enough to not worry so much about what people think as focus more on what's just right. And I know that this is a very easy generation to offend. But when has truth not been offensive? You know what I mean? So we've got to have thicker skin. I don't know how this generation. We're the generation that came from like South Park and Beavis and Butthead and like Metallica and Wu-Tang. I don't know how we became Guns N' Roses, and I don't know how we became. Now all my religious folks out there be like, "Oh, come on, what about?" And I get like we got the whole. I'm saying that's what I'm saying is that. I remember the fire and brimstone preachers. How did we become so easily offended? It's just such a. This is how I know that there's manipulation involved, right? Because I think what happened was the truly sinister people wanted to shed light on one group of the extremes, not promoting the balance. Because if you look at both extremes. From the far left to the far right, both extremes, the one thing they lack is balance. The ability to listen to each other. And that's one of the things that you're talking about introducing into your campaign is a balance of authentic communication between between Democrats and Republicans, an evolutionary conversation or a progressive conversation, not into a progression of new ageness, but a common ground where we're going to disagree where we disagree, and that's okay, and a common ground where we're going to agree where we agree, and that's okay. I think that's very bold. What's interesting, though, is most people are going to say, no. A lot of people say, well, this is compromise. How do we know the difference between compromising and what issues can we compromise on? What are the type of issues that we can compromise on? Or is this just either get people to understand what truth is or be okay with this compromise? Or so are there areas that can be compromised, if any? What type of areas are those? Or is compromise too strong of a word?
There's always room for compromise.
Okay.
True compromise is, you come to an agreement upon something, and you didn't have to give up your dignity. You know what I mean? The essence of who you are, the core of what you stand for. You didn't have to violate your code. Then
Gotcha.
Then, if you can come to an agreement on that, then you compromise. It would be something different. And if you can't compromise, and that's what diplomacy is.
Right.
Diplomacy is the ability to compromise.
And
then there are lesser forms of compromise, which will be devolved into war and things of that nature. That's a form of diplomacy as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the form that you don't want to see.
I let the others compromise. I'm an infantry warmonger.
Are there things that we can't compromise on? Yes, I believe that there are. I believe that as it pertains to raising children, teaching the proper pronouns, you should not compromise on that.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't seek to confuse little ones on whether they are boys or little girls. You shouldn't compromise on, how do you compromise on basic biology?
Before we go there, I gotta ask you a question. I was actually told to ask this question.
We can't compromise on the Second Amendment.
Okay.
Shall not be infringed means exactly that. We cannot
compromise.
We can't compromise on our rights to.
So there's no room for naivety, because what we think won't happen can happen.
Yeah, I think that people who believe that we can compromise on those sorts of things.
So glad we talked about
have delusions of grandeur.
So
because it's not who we are.
This compromise situation. How do we compromise on child support? Like from what I understand, there are a lot of men being done wrong through child. You believe that?
Yeah.
Okay, and so, ladies, bear with me before you decide to get all upset. But the question is, how do you feel about men? If the men doesn't have a voice in whether you keep the baby or not. So it's like the abortion child support concept, where I've heard you. So you already heard this before,
right?
Right.
That question right there.
You've heard it before. Wow.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, it's like if a man doesn't have a say so in whether you keep the baby or not, why do they have to pay child support? Man, I'm always baffled by it. Because I totally hear everybody's.
All right, so you're talking about abortion, right? My personal opinion is that I don't believe in abortion unless there are mitigating circumstances or some circumstances out there that, for example, if someone is raped or something like that, I think that we have become so grossly negligent as individuals in our daily practices, whether it be with intercourse or whatever, to diet, that we feel as though we can just do whatever we want to do without taking into consideration the consequences that come along with those actions. There are a couple of things that I think of. For example, if we made abortion 100% illegal. Now, I'm a father of 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
If my daughters, heaven forbid, were raped and were found to be pregnant and they did not want to have the child, the psychological damage that they would have to ensue by not only bearing the child but also raising a constant reminder of their rapist? I don't know. So, should there be certain circumstances by which ladies are able to be able to go to a government-funded place and receive an abortion? And the answer to that, in those circumstances, I believe, is yes. However, if a person is out just willy-nilly having sex, being irresponsible with their body, um, having babies, and then that's not right. It is. So we're talking about matters of morality.
Yeah, it's
and
all mixed in
matters
there.
of the heart, and that are all intertwined. And this is just me speaking as a man. Now, if we, as a man and a father, and I try my best, and no matter how hard I try, because I have XY chromosomes, I could never think like a woman.
Right.
So what I would do in that case
Forfeit.
No, I wouldn't forfeit a thing, because I believe that if I'm put in a position to make the decision, then the decision is mine to make. However, how I would come to a decision making is to get a council of men and women, conservative and liberal, come to a consensus. We have the debates on the issue.
Yeah.
And then together we come up with a solution that would maybe we could compromise. I think that would probably be the best solution, because
you're not doing anything knee jerk.
You can't. And all these people out here saying that, it's either one way or the other. This is not a zero-sum game.
No, but I can say this: preachers are responsible for a lot of that, because the preachers would come out.
You talking about the same?
You're a funny dude. Yeah, because the preachers
Right.
were like, and then what would happen is their children would end up in situations, or they would end up having, for even lesser reasons, not even rape. They wouldn't want the family to be embarrassed and would have the daughter get secret abortions.
Oh, so it's about being embarrassed.
That's what a lot of preachers did. A lot of preachers had their daughters have abortions because they didn't want them to. They didn't want to be embarrassed, because they were preaching, especially the fire and brimstone preachers. And then what they would do is change their tune about and all of a sudden start preaching mercy and grace after.
There is something wrong with murdering a child in the womb. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. However, the issue that you run into is, all right, so you're talking about preachers, right? So preachers adhere to what the Father says. What's the one thing that the Father gives you? The only thing that you have.
Life.
Mm.
Free will.
Yeah.
Free will and a choice.
Right. Free will.
So now.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So now, if you want to look at things from a moral standpoint and we want to emulate the Father, then what's the answer?
It's gonna be choose life.
It's gonna be choose. Yeah. Well, no.
I'm saying it's gonna be choose.
Unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately because it goes against what I want.
Yeah, it's choose.
It's the ability.
Yeah.
To choose.
And that's not what we want to hear.
That's not what we want. That's not what we want to hear. Yeah, and that's from the preacher standpoint.
Yeah.
So
I can say this though. I can say this. If this is where it does fall into the community's hands, because there is a resolve to it, that and this is why I think that people have so much power, where we could annihilate abortion if, for even whatever reasons, besides taking someone's choice away, if we were more creative in our ability to support mothers to create more orphanages.
Let me say this because we left that incomplete. Now, this is the beauty of our country because there's a separation between church and state, right? So now, if it's me, I'm pro-life. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So what that means is that unless you have mitigating or extenuating circumstances that are provable in the courtroom of law, you're going to have that baby.
Right.
Okay, there are consequences to your actions. If you're out there having sex and being irresponsible, or maybe you just went out there just one night, and it happened. That baby has a right to life.
And when I know people, I get it. Cut and dry answers are scary in this generation because there's supposed to be no absolute truths. Up isn't really up, and down isn't really down. Whatever, I get it. But in a subject like this, and I'm so glad thank you for being open about it, because a lot of politicians try to dance around it and things like that. And a lot of them try to appease to their more, either the liberal audience or the conservative audience in a way, versus saying how they really feel. Like what you just said, hey, I understand that there's the reality of choice does exist, but you still were able to articulate that you are absolutely pro-life, but you do recognize the fact that choice does exist. And then if we're nowhere near being God to take people's choice away. And so it's awesome that you didn't have to separate the two realities, that you can actually function in both realities. Because being in the military, we had to deal with all types of people and from all walks of life. And I think it kind of gave us this. We realized that it didn't have to be this either or thing. But if you're going to ask us what we see as right or wrong, we're going to look at it from the perspective of the Father and what He's able to do. Because technically, God could have threw us all away. We're all dysfunctional to some certain degree, and so we've all been saved by grace. And there's nothing. It's never going to be anything wrong with extending that grace to a child that's in the womb. I got to play this commercial. I thought this because I want you to address this commercially. What you did.
Kiss her for that. That was a messed up question.
But I got to play this, Christian, because this involves you about vocation, and I want to add this, and I want you to respond to what, even though it's a wonderful commercial, but I just want you to respond to it and why it means so much to you.
Okay.
Second platform is education. We want to make sure that we have VOTEC in every high school. We know that a huge component in raising IQ in children is their ability to be associated with something. If that association with whatever it may be helps to raise IQ in children. So when I was in high school back in the 90s, we had VOTEC pretty much in every school. Over the last 20, 25 years, it's been taken away. That opportunity has been taken away. So what schools have been doing is pushing people toward 4-year schools. And some students really, are just not wanting to go into a university. Mm-hmm. And what happens to a lot of those students is they fall along the wayside. Mm-hmm. The ones that do go, they may go for 4 years. Then once they graduate, they can't find a job. But what they've done is they've taken out, thousands of dollars in loans, and essentially they become debtor slaves. Mm-hmm. By instituting VOTEC in every school, we are enabling students to be able to gain a skill set, graduate with a professional degree, and step right into the workforce with a professional degree and a diploma, making 40, 50K right off the bat. Then after that, they can apply to apprenticeships and raise their salaries.
Correct.
This is a great alternative to just raising, pushing for minimum wage. We want to see people being able to compete any and everywhere, not only in the district, but all across America and the world. And they can do that with these skill sets.
All right, we're back, and we were just having a conversation with what's going on, because I know. Listen, about the fact, by the way, facts, folks, we do know that the abortion conversation is a deep one, and if you don't mind, we could definitely come back to that. You know, I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you on to say, hey, this is us talking about. Like, and by the way, if you guys want to leave comments, we will address the comments. If you have questions for Madison and you want to ask him questions, please, leave a message up here. You're more than welcome. Let me make sure. Let me make sure everybody is being acknowledged, because I know we have the Savior Connect page platform where you guys are up there as well. So I want to make sure that everybody's being acknowledged. And so Savior Connect is one of our amazing social networks. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Where you can also hear, just so you know, you can also hear Current FM on Savior Connect. That's a big thing. And then you could see Real Life with Duke White on Savior Connect as well. Okay, so everybody that's watching via Savior Connect, hello, how you doing? How your mama doing? How you doing? No way. You know what I mean? But if you got any questions, please definitely hit us up. We want to be able to get to your questions. And this is not a monopoly of a conversation. Just trying to really hit the points that you guys, topics that you guys really want to talk about, because of the simple fact that, we know how there are certain subjects that are important to you, and we want to address those subjects. And I would love for you to be able to, see the heart of Madison and what he cares about. Matter of fact, the link. So you got the link right now. So the link for yesterday's episode, where we hit on a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, but we had a vet in there. We talked about something with the vets. I do want to ask you this because since we did talk about vets, and I want to know, how do you feel about women in the infantry?
I think that I grew up in a Marine Corps where women trained for battalion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was 3rd Battalion. Men were 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalion. So I don't know. I really can't answer that question. I suppose it would depend on the woman. Again, as a father of daughters, I teach my daughters that they can do any and everything that they want, that they put their heart to. However, as a father, I'd steer them away from that, because there are certain things that we do as men that the female body just isn't equipped to do, and that's just a matter of biology.
Right.
And the same matter that women have stronger bodies that are capable of handling different sorts of things that we just
can't do. Yeah.
It is the way that we are made. But I haven't really done the study on that to know. And, certainly if you look at Israel, it seems to work, right? Lately, I think that if you look at, what's happened in the more modern wars, post Vietnam, there are men and women on the battlefield, and it seems to work. So I think that, when you get into the more elite status type things, you could run into some potential problems. I couldn't imagine playing football against a woman, where it's that physical and that brutal. You know what I mean? It just, you know what I mean? So there are certain things, but for the most part.
No, I get it. I do. I would like to ask you now. This is definitely as a minister myself, and trying to figure this one out has been challenging. That's why I'm so excited about working with you. Just so to have the conversation and see what can we do to heal the relationship with felons and community, like that second chance. Like when they get out, they did the time.
Well,
and
that's easy. That's easy. First of all, we need to do away with private prisons or for-profit prisons, because this whole thing when I'm talking about debtor slavery.
But we're not talking about not paying consequences, folks. So just to clear that up. Go ahead.
No, I mean, you are going to pay their consequences to your actions. We expect as a society that you contribute your consequences to the actions that you perform. But however, we have a problem with our judiciaries and correction system in America. There should be no for-profit prisons in America. This just shouldn't happen. There should be, the Department of Corrections to live up to its name. Where's the correction?
Oh, correction. Yeah.
Where's the correction in behavior? It just has not happened. My phone just died. So that's that piece. There we go.
Yeah, iPhone?
Yeah.
Faith! She's my hero. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know she can. I know my daughter cannot stand it. I call her for everything.
Faith, yes.
Can I get your charger cord? You guys gotta give it up for Faith. She's my superhero. But yet.
Yeah. So basically, we shouldn't be sending people to prison just to sit and rot for a certain amount of time. There should be an opportunity for them to be able to receive the correctives and rehabilitative services that they need in order to go back out into society to be a contributor. But that is something that simply has not been happening. Why? Because our society, the oligarchs and the elitists have decided that they're going to make a certain amount of money off of people who are out there in prison. We're going to disenfranchise and continue to marginalize those people who are probably there because they are being disenfranchised and marginalized in the first place.
Right.
A lot of people are in jail because they weren't able to afford adequate representation.
Oof.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot there that needs to be changed, and that's why prison reform, child welfare reform.
I heard.
Reform,
I have a family right now that I'm working. Wow, because I have a family right now that is telling me about the. It's not just the jail time, but the fact that they make hundreds of dollars off of the phone calls, and the emails, and to be able to communicate is now another industry inside of itself in the prison system. Right. Medicine is extremely expensive.
We have elitists and in our society that have been nothing but prey on the marginalized.
Wow.
And the least fortunate of us, the most vulnerable, and that begins with our children. From the third grade on up, they've already decided in their mind who is going to be going to prison.
I was going to say, could you go ahead and I knew you threw that out there earlier. Can you go ahead and explain what the school to prison pipeline is?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a plethora of different mechanisms that kind of work together in order to help or just almost guide a person through this pipeline into what would the end result would be prison, a couple stints. So basically what happens is you have primarily people who are marginalized or disenfranchised, and by about the third grade, they're starting to show signs, signs in school where they're getting in trouble, maybe talking back, maybe even getting physical or violent, things of that nature, right? And what happens is they begin the paper trail, right? So
Right.
then oftentimes after that, they end up with IEPs. You know, they may end up in court. They may end up with a guardian ad litem. They may end up with court-appointed psychological services. They may end up with not only an individualized education plan, which is the IEP, but then they might end up with an individualized service plan that is developed from the psych firm that works in conjunction with the IEP and in conjunction with the court system, in conjunction with the diagnoses, which is oftentimes not a correct diagnosis,
Right.
which works in conjunction with the medication that they're then put on, which probably they shouldn't be on in the first place, which helps them to go into school and remain loopy. And heaven forbid that once their body is used to the medication and they don't get it, they're acting even more crazy. You know, so it throws the teachers out of sync, which causes them to create even more paperwork. The cycle continues. They go back into the psych firm. The first plan that they wrote up in diagnoses maybe lasted for 3 months. They have to re-up it for another 3 months. They might do the next one for 180 days instead. The cycle continues to end up back and forth in J&D court. They have no one to actually fight for them to help to pull them out of this vicious cycle that now the families have found themselves into. You have counselors and social workers pushing their way in the families, forcing them to bring up the child and disrupt their family life and their quality of life and health. You know, it's just a huge.
It's an invasion. So you're talking about the parental rights gone. You're talking about being told that they have to do this, have to be here. Like, it's amazing that a child has the ability to be that access point. You know what I mean? Because I think what it is, the idea of hiding behind it's in the child's best interest,
right.
But really it's just a format of control. I said another system of control. I think that's really unique. That's what the end goal to be. You know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about with that is that I know a lot of people that say that this is all conspiracy theory, the prison to school to prison pipeline.
That's been documented. It's not conspiracy. Once the research has been performed, we have statistical facts to back everything up. You have over policing in certain areas. I mean, this has been going on. I mean, Malcolm X talked about this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this has been going on for a very, very long time. So there's plenty of study behind it. There's plenty of research behind it. There are plenty of statistics to prove this is true.
I know that people want. I know that sometimes when you're being naive, you just want to believe the best, and so it's easy to throw everything into a conspiracy theory category because I know that feelings are a big deal, and I do gotta say this: we are a nation of second chances. You mean,
or some,
right? We're supposed to be. I mean, that correction is in this. Like you said, it's in the name. Right. It is supposed to be there. And I'm not confused about it. I know it's supposed to be there.
It's the reason why I say for some, if you have an extrajudiciary killing, then that person didn't get a second chance. Right?
Well, I was going to say before this, the hysteria of like all the riots and everything that break out. I want to ask everybody to please make sure before you flip out or things don't go the way you thought, if someone doesn't get off or something, maybe you think it's a lesser crime, know the laws and statutes of that state because that judge is going to judge according to that state. Right. And a lot of times, the riots that we were having were because people weren't paying attention to what the rules were in that state, like say a stand your ground state. If you don't know anything about stand your ground, you're gonna think someone was just shot in, especially the way
right. That's true.
Not young Republicans, Young Turks. The way the Young Turks the way the Young Turks come at everything. It's just like, oh, you just, you know, and so so be careful what media source that you get hyped off of, and make sure you know facts for yourself.
Right.
Because there are a lot of things that that can scam you. But by the way, I do want to say that you know, it's an amazing thing when you have someone willing to sit down and have these many topics. Because what a lot of politicians do is just choose a few to stand on.
You have asked a few questions that would devastate a politician.
right. And I want people to see how comfortable he is, you know, really reaching out. Like this is it's absolutely amazing to see how comfortable he is answering these questions. But we gotta have you guys come back because I know for a fact that there's gonna be people that want to answer more questions. What I'd like to do is, you know, most people didn't even know that we were gonna be on today. What I'd like to do is, you know, set a date where everyone can come in. Be prepared to ask your rapid fire questions. Be prepared to ask anything that you want to ask. You can just ask him, and we kind of free fall, see what happens. But it's like a public ask Madison anything. You know, would you be interested in that town hall?
I love town hall.
Okay,
I would prefer to do a town hall or a debate than monologue any day of the week.
You don't like that.
I don't like monologue.
Guys, he says this, but then we could have, if we didn't have him on our team right now, we could have had him in the WWE where he would have been on the mic.
Prototype.
Oh,
or
the real thing.
I got another one. Like, I'm older now, and I got this white. I grew up my beard.
Right on.
And been some sort of a pimp out of dress like that pimp hand. That's my super move.
Oh,
man. Super move.
That'll be that.
The pimp hand is strong.
The pimp hand is strong. Well, listen, guys. We want you to ask Madison anything, and we want you to know, like, be praying for this guy because he does get it on both sides. You know, he gets it from the black community, gets it from the Republican community, because it's like, what are you? And this is what kind of tells you where we are as a society. When it's like, well, why are you black and Republican? What are you doing here?
You know, I went into a place the other day. It was the American Legion. And I was talking to an old first sergeant, right? And one of the questions he asked, he looked at my pamphlet, you know, first Hebrew chaplain, graduated from Howard, obviously, you know, melanated. And he says to me, wait, he just saw Republican. And he said, well, you ain't got nothing black going for you, do you? Now, I can't say what I was thinking in my mind, you know, but I was thinking, wow, you know, maybe people like you are the reason why they used to make people read before they take these tests before they vote.
Wow.
Because that is an ignorant statement to make, you know.
But you know what? There's so many people that have gotten by. I don't think they don't actually think what they do is ignorant. You know, they don't see it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. Listen, we're out of here. I want you guys to check this out. We got some bills to pay. So this young man was actually an Army vet, and he was caught on fire. He just sent me a video. After 3 months, he was able to take his first couple steps without any cast or crutches, and he's extremely excited. His name's William T. Stars, William Womack. Congratulations. It was good to have you back on your feet. So this is William Womack. Go off instead.
No flesh. trying to take me, but Christ ain't gonna let me go. This world gon' try to break me, whatever, I can't let it show. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. The devil trying to take me, but Christ ain't gonna let me go. This world gon' try to break me, whatever, I can't let it show. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I don't think they know what I'm capable of. I be pegging out like I'm analog. There's only one guy who made one star. You won't find another me in catalog. I got the Lord at the head of my thoughts, so I ain't gotta report to synagogues. I know who he is, he the son of God. Plus the Father and Spirit don't wanna call. So I got them balls that hit like a runaway train on the track with a parked car. I made it out of the trap star. Got no limits like a black car. Y'all play God like from Asgard. When I pray to God, I just ask for a floodgates to open like a cash drawer. Just reap a sword, then I pay it for it. The Spirit on me, they say I'm anointed and I ain't winning disappoint. I just pray to get the point. The devil looking to exploit. For that street light, pay the steep price. Set me facing letters in the joint. Now they may see me on the wings though, cause I got Jesus at the point. Can't turn my back cause these haters gon' front. Let them go ahead and say what they want. I'ma pray so my pastors and haunt me. These predators pray so I stay on the hunt. And I don't feel the taunt of my enemy. They see the hand of my Lord is defending me. So I don't know who y'all gon' pretend to be, but I'ma play the man I was sent to be. The devil trying to take me, but Christ ain't gonna let me go. This world gon' try to break me, whatever, I can't let it show. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. The devil trying to take me, but Christ ain't gonna let me go. This world gon' try to break me, whatever, I can't let it show. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I need an epicenosis. I want the full experience and appearance from you will recover my focus. They claim to be Christian, but what if they hope lie when the trouble's approaching? And they out on that front line. Enemy got to jump and they call it encroachment. But they ain't no offside. So I sit at the side where my Jesus resides. Took the sting out of death when he hung and he died. Now he sit at the side with a flame in his eye and the voices like thunder that's cracking the sky. I get it cracking, I'm fly. I'm a grown man through the challenges inside. Got a promised land, I protect till I die. Give it the program and get this army beside me. I'm off the leash, it's souls in these streets that I gotta reach. The victory's ours, they suffer defeat. So I'm crushing the enemy's head with the heel of my feet. Headed to IQ, he killing the beat. It's cause of my IQ, I stay with a leak. Y'all go ahead and stay with a drip. I got living waters overflowing, I sip. I done took off like I'm planning a trip on the coast of VA. Got a room on the strip. I be in tune with the strength. I took a side on stride of the fence. Calling him, he gon' come through in the clinch. Paid up my ties, ain't no wonder I'm rich. And then ain't no doubt he alive. It's only because of his grace I survived. So I gotta testify to hear the truth speaking. They get petrified while they proof seeking. I've been rectified. I'm in his booth preaching when I could've died in him I reside. The devil trying to take me, but Christ ain't gonna let me go. This world gon' try to break me, whatever, I can't let it show. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. The devil trying to take me, but Christ ain't gonna let me go. This world gon' try to break me, whatever, I can't let it show. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead. I'ma go off instead.